Good morning, David Coombe here with the CBS AM Debrief. It's Thursday the 15th of September, so we're halfway through the month, and looks like things on the European debt issue front are not going away, but a little bit of a relief right now with Angela Merkel and Nicolas Sarkozy agreeing to continue to support Greece in its endeavours to avoid a default on its debt. So that actually saw the Dow rally up pretty nicely for its third straight session, up 140 points or 1.27%. The broader S&P 500 up 1.35 and Nasdaq up 1.6, and the rest of the Americas were following suit there. I was just noticing that there's some comments that Canada may technically be in a recession, having experienced 2 quarters of negative growth there, so that's being suggested as a possible scenario there. Also overnight we had some significant falls in the value of the Korean won and the Indonesian rupiah, people not wanting to be caught out in the case of the sovereign debt issue. I guess a little bit similarly to the Asian financial crisis back in the late 90s there, where those currencies in particular got very, very significantly devalued. So a lot of money being pulled out of those 2 emerging economies there for that reason, it's claimed. Okay, have a look at what happened in Europe. We can see lots of green numbers there, with DAX up 3.36, the CAC up 1.87, and the JUD up 2.70, and the FTSE up just over 1%. So some pretty good results there. In our region yesterday, we ended up having that near 100-point move, and ultimately it closed down nearly 70 points. The Nikkei down 97 points, and Hang Seng putting in a bit of recovery after a couple of big moves down in recent sessions. In our region, we've got the Nikkei up 150 for today, the Hang Seng up 1, and then looks like we're putting a pretty strong bounce off that 4,000 level. Pardon me, to be up 72. I'll move on and have a look at the commodities, with West Texas coming off that $90 level, which does seem to be the higher end of the trading range, and talked about that in Barrett's Bulletin several times now. So seems like every time it gets up there it becomes pretty safe short. We have had some reasons to be up there with some of the hurricanes blowing through the region there, a greater number than usual, and that's kept the pressure up. So once we see that season end and we've got the prospects for global demand being pretty subdued, we certainly shouldn't expect to see that back down to the lower end of the trading range. Natural gas, back above $4 here. For those of you holding the warrant there, sadly that trade did not work out this time, and we will have a pretty good record there, but I guess it was bound to be the exception come through, so we'll, I guess, be looking for another one in due course. Okay, onto the soft commodity space. We have probably a fairly big move there, nearly 2% in cocoa. In coffee, 1.70. Couple of rises look like corn and cotton. Cotton trading up just over 0.5%. Orange juice down 0.65. And other big movers, wheat down 1.31 and rough rice down 1.60, being the standouts there to the downside. A pretty big move here in copper. Again, we've been talking about that in Barrett's Bulletin, that the global growth prospects, as it's usually a barometer for that, do not support its presence up here at these sorts of levels. And some of these industrial action issues have been sorted out, as well as weather problems that seem to be a reason for that recent high. So actually start to think about some of the copper stocks that we could consider shorting on the back of a decline in copper prices. So I'll probably do some work over that in the coming days and try and get back to you on that. Gold holding reasonably steady here, down 3.6 to 18.26, and silver down 66 cents to $40.53. And yeah, just mentioned that US dollar strength with the Korean won and the Indonesian rupiah. We're seeing here, in fact, euro's actually weakened just slightly, 1.3745, pound at 1.5767. The US dollar buying 76.6940 yen, and the Aussie a little bit weaker still at 1.0269, and the US dollar buying nearly back at parity, 0.9901 Canadian. I mentioned earlier the possibility of a technical recession there. And then finally, the US dollar buying 87.62 Swiss francs. Okay, let's have a look at the economic calendar. US business inventories a little bit under expectations there. China actual FDI, that number hasn't come out. Kiwis are going to keep their rates on hold at 2.5%. And we've got rates decision out of Switzerland a little bit later on this afternoon, or 5:30. Retail sales out of the UK, CPI numbers out of the Eurozone, so that'd be a fairly important number there. And then we've got consumer price index and consumer prices year on year for August out of the United States, to give us a bit of direction with how inflation is tracking. And then going into tomorrow, really not a lot of data apart from some University of Michigan confidence numbers out of the US just prior to midnight. Okay, let's have a look at the Falcon trader here. That's that cotton trade where we talked about a breakout above this level of resistance here around 109. That seems to be tracking quite well. St Barbara gold stock, I think I did talk about exiting that trade, and yes, it has found resistance off that level of around 240. So in fact, probably can safely take that off the list there. So that was a successful trade. Silver Lakes, another gold play. Actually coming off here off that old level of resistance. And didn't actually see that get quite as high as it did, but certainly I know I talked about the possibility that it would want to stall here. So that seems to be playing out to expectations. ResMed, looked at that once before and thought that made a little bit of profit, but I think it's worth watching here to see if we get some sort of indication of a turnaround. And looking at the medical pharma sector, trade that I think we have to say has not worked out is CSL. Those exchange rate changes have not been enough to provide any meaningful lift for the stock, and I think you pretty well say there that you probably want to think about exiting out of that trade if you haven't already hit your stop loss. Probably not there, because you'd want to be looking at something around 25 and a half, 25 and 3/4, but to my mind that really does look pretty desperate, so might be best just to get out of that trade and write that one off, so we'll delete that as well. Caltex, that was another successful trade, but I think we can leave that one well enough for now. People that were in that one as well would have picked up that quite good dividend around 17 cents, I believe it was. Dragon, another gold stock that I talked about. And in fact, this was a vector-based pick, which is one of the trading systems we use here. A little bit hard to know where that's going right now, other than into some sort of consolidation. I did break that downward trend line. and if it holds that level, perhaps there's some comfort in getting set there around these levels here, looking for some sort of a breakout there. Aluka. Okay, so that's actually broken out of this inner upward pennant looking pattern. So I'd say we have to exit out of that trade and take a loss on that one there. And as mentioned earlier, I'm going to start thinking about some shorts here and probably look at some commodities there as well to consider. So we'll leave it there and have a good day, and until next time, bye for now.